This is a continuation of the story problems in 2.1 that are assigned. So this is your part of your homework. So 61 is cigarette ads. The FTC's annual report on cigarette sales and advertising shows that the major cigarette manufacturers spent $15.15 billion on advertising and promotional expenditures in 2003, an increase of $2.68 billion from 2002, and the most ever reported to the Commission. Write a linear equation that represents the expenditure as a function of the number of years after 2000. So the first thing I see is x equals 0 is 2000. So being that this is an increase of $2.68 billion per year, this increase here is going to be my slope, which would be the change in y over change in x. It would be an action that's growing. And then my x and my x are years, and my y, again, you can find that right in the beginning here, the annual report of cigarette sales and advertising. So this here is going to be in money, in billions of dollars. So a little bit from the last chapter in writing a linear function. So this red up here would actually be an ordered pair. 2003 is year 3, and then $15.15 billion. So that's one ordered pair of a year and how much. So I'm going to do my equation. I'm going to drop in, so I need to find the b for this. So I have the y, which is 15.15. I have the m, which is 2.68. And then my pen is being weird again. And my x is 3, and then plus b. And I'm going to go ahead and solve that. So this here ends up to be 8.04. Oops. Oh. 8.04, subtract it from 15.15, and you would get B ends up to be 7.11. So minus 8.04. This is gone. B ends up to be 7.11. So I'm going to actually write that linear equation now. Notice the work that I showed on here to get credit if there's one like this on your test. So y equals the m, which is 2.68x plus 7.11. So use a model, and whenever they say the model, talking about the equation, to determine in what year the expenditures are expected to exceed $60 billion. So they want to know when this will exceed $60 billion. So this is going to be my y1, and my y2 is going to be 60. I want to know when this increase ends up at 60. So I'm going to go to my graphing calculator. I'm going to enter those two lines in my graphing calculator. I'm going to find the intersection and write the ordered pair. Let's go ahead and do that right now. You can pause the video if you want, just to check back with me if you got it right. So what I did is I went into my y equal and I put the y1 and y2 in there, and I noticed that my plot was on. So I'm going to go up and push enter and get off of it to get my plot off, because I know that there's stuff in my L1, L2 that I don't need to worry about right now, but I don't want that graphing on my graph. And then I'm going to go to my window, and whenever you're dealing with years, You definitely don't want to be over 100. To track something for 100 years is a really long time. So you want to keep that 100 or less. And then I picked 0 to 100 for the y. I noticed that my y-intercept is 7.11. So here's my y-intercept. And I didn't have to go that high, but I did. And let's just see how it graphs. I could lower that, but let's just see how that graphs. Need to see if I can find the intersection on that. And there it is. So I'm going to calculate the intersection. I'm going to let my little bug do the work. And I get 19.735 and 60. So I'm going to go ahead on my sheet here. Try that out. Oh, I think I said that wrong last time. So this here is a horizontal line crossing at 60. And then this here is the y-intercept for my increasing line here. So I went to 100 on mine. So here we go, and I always write the whole ordered pair so you get full credit. So that's 19.735 and 60. And then my answer here, use a model to determine in what year the expenditure was at 60. So this is the year 19. And this is a rounding thing that I want to talk about. You never ever round a year up. This is year 19. So if I were to do 2000 plus 19 is 2019. I know it's kind of, after the 0.7 part tells me it's, it might be like the second half of the year, but you never round to the next year. Even if it was December 31st, 2019, that's still 2019. So always just truncate that when you're doing years. So that answer is 2019. The next one is going to be one that you're going to do by hand. So you're going to do this algebraically, and I have that listed in the directions. So this is not going to be a graphing calculator one. To earn an A grade, a student must get an average score of at least 90 on 5 tests, and her first 4 tests are those scores. What is the score that she needs on her last test to obtain a 90% average? So I have the first 4, so you're going to show your work on here. Plus I have the 5th one, which I don't know. That's my unknown. So to find the average, I would take that, I would divide it by 5, and I want to know what score does she need on the last test to obtain a 90% average. So I want to know how that would equal 90. And notice I didn't put these as 0.92, 0.86, because I didn't do this as 0.9 either. I just put them as the percents. And then we have to know how to solve this. So the top number ends up to be 353 plus x divided by 5 equals 90. And then my next one I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by 5. The first thing I want to do is get the 5 out of the denominator. So I end up with 353 plus x equals 450. And then I'm going to subtract 353 to get the number 97. So she needs to have a 97%. Oops. And 64 is the same, so I'm going to let you do that on your own. Let's take a look at 65. Tobacco judgment as part of the largest to date damage award in a jury trial in history. In the July 2000 penalty handed down against the tobacco industry included a $74,000 billion judgment against Philip Morris. If this amount was 94% of the company's 1999 revenue, how much was Philip Morris's 1999 revenue? And this comes from all the data that I'm giving you. All these story problems are all real. None of them are just made up. So they're all given. That's why they source it. So there's a couple ways you could do this. 2 different ways, actually, depending on how you learned it in algebra. So you could say, just take it literally and transcribe this. So you could say 74 billion is 94% of the revenue. So I just translate this right into an equation. This is the way I like to do it personally. I would say 74, I know it's in billions, is always means equals in math. 0.94 of always means multiply times R. And then all I would do is divide by 0.95. And I would get my revenue, and this is $78.723 billion. Another way you could do this is as a proportion. So 94 over 100, you just have to know where this other number goes. 74 is the part of the whole. And then you could cross multiply that. So that's 7,400, 94R. And I'm going to divide that. And I will get the same thing here. Notice that this is 74 over 0.95 versus 7,400 over 94. Oops, this should have been 94 too. I bet you already found my mistake there. Same answer. 66 is similar. I just want to go over the decimal of that one is going to be 4.79 because you're going to move that decimal over 2 places to the right. So I know that looks a little weird with the 4.79, but that's how that one works. So you can do that either way. You don't have to do it both ways. 69, also algebraic. If you look at your homework directions, the total cost, so we're not doing this using our graphing calculator. The total cost of a new automobile, including a 6% sales tax on the price of the automobile, is $29,998. How much of the total cost of this new automobile is sales tax? So the original price is my X, and the total cost is my Y, if you look at that. So the formula I would use is the original price plus the sales tax is going to get me my total cost. And that makes sense just thinking of when you buy something. You can have the cost of it plus the sales tax. How much of the total cost of the new automobile is sales tax? So I have my original value, which I don't know. So I'm going to just put that as X plus the sales tax, which is 0.06 times X, 6% of the price, is going to give me my $29,998. So I have an X plus a 0.06x, that's going to be 1.06x equals 29,998. Divide by 1.06, that's going to give me 28,300 as my original price. And we still don't know the sales tax. So if I took my total cost with tax and subtracted the original price, I will get my tax. So I'm going to take my 29,998 minus my 28,300 to get my tax of $1,698. This one here, you're just going to fill in what the proportions are. I'm going to let you do that yourself. And 73, we've done one like that, so I'm going to let you do that yourself. And again, be careful because these ones are algebraically. So take a look at the directions on all these.